The night was cold on the edge of the human colony planet. The wind carried dust and the scent of oil from old machines. Lights flickered in the sky from passing cargo ships, but below, everything was quiet and broken. Raymond was a strong man with tired eyes. He worked in a repair shop during the day and raised his son alone. His son Kyle was only 12, but he was smart, curious, and full of questions. That night they had come to the junkyard to find a part for an old engine. "This place gives me the creeps," Kyle whispered. Raymond smiled and ruffled his hair. "Don't worry. We'll be quick." They walked past tall piles of metal, rusted wires, and crushed ships. Some parts still had glowing lights as if they were waiting to live again. A faint sound stopped them. It wasn't wind. It wasn't metal, it was crying. Raymond froze. He held up his hand, signaling Kyle to stay quiet. The sound came from deeper inside the junkyard, behind a broken shuttle that looked like it had crashed from space and been forgotten. He walked slowly toward it. The crying grew louder, soft, scared, and full of pain. He pushed aside a bent piece of metal. Behind it, under a pile of wires and panels, was a strange shape. At first, Raymond thought it was a damaged droid. But then it moved. It was alive. Covered in dirt and oil, the creature looked like a large, fat alien boy. His skin was light gray with blue spots, and his arms trembled as he tried to move. His legs were bent the wrong way, and his eyes were wide with fear. When he saw Raymond, he shrank back and whispered in a shaky voice, "Please, don't hurt me. I can't walk." Raymond's heart sank. The boy was terrified. He wasn't dangerous. He was just a child in pain. Kyle peeked from behind a metal crate, eyes wide. "Dad, is that an alien?" "Yes," Raymond said quietly, kneeling beside the creature. "But he's hurt. Badly." The alien flinched when Raymond reached out but didn't resist. "What's your name?" Raymond asked gently. The alien looked at him with watery eyes but said nothing. Then suddenly voices echoed through the junkyard. "Search the left side." He couldn't have gotten far. Raymond's body tensed. Kyle's eyes grew big with fear. The alien's voice cracked. "They're coming. Don't let them take me." Raymond didn't ask questions. He scooped the fat alien into his arms. The boy was heavier than expected, but Raymond's arms didn't shake. Kyle ran ahead, guiding the path back to their vehicle. As they reached the hover truck, Raymond placed the alien carefully in the back, covering him with a tarp. Just as he shut the door, flashlights swept across the piles. "Hey," a rough voice shouted from the shadows. "You! What are you doing here?" Raymond turned slowly, forcing a calm smile. "Looking for parts," he said, holding up a broken engine coil. 3 rough-looking men stepped out. Their uniforms were mismatched, with weapons hanging from their belts. "Smugglers, clearly. This area's off limits," one said, scanning Raymond with suspicious eyes. "Didn't know," Raymond said, pretending to yawn. "Just grabbing junk." The man looked past him. "Toward the hover truck. You sure you're alone?" Kyle stepped beside his father, trying to look brave. "Just me and my boy." There was a tense silence. One of the smugglers seemed ready to step forward when a loud crash echoed from deep inside the yard. The men looked toward the sound. "Let's go. Maybe he's over there." They ran off, weapons drawn. Raymond grabbed Kyle's hand and rushed to the truck. Seconds later, they were speeding away through the desert road, engines roaring under the stars. Inside the truck, the alien peeked out from under the tarp. "You helped me," he whispered. Raymond nodded, watching the road. "You needed it." The alien's lip trembled. No one had ever said that to him before. As the colony lights appeared in the distance, Kyle asked, "Dad, what do we do now?" Raymond looked into the rear mirror at the scared alien boy. "We take him home," he said, "and figure it out." But in the shadows of the junkyard, one smuggler picked up a shiny piece of torn alien cloth. He raised a comm to his lips. "We lost him," he growled, "but someone took him. A human, a man with a kid. Find them." The night wind grew stronger as Raymond's hover truck sped away from the junkyard. His hands gripped the wheel tightly. He kept checking the rear mirror, watching for any sign of lights chasing them. But the road behind stayed empty. Kyle sat silently in the passenger seat, his eyes flicking back at the figure in the back. The fat alien boy was quiet now. Wrapped in a blanket, he didn't move, but his eyes stayed open, wide and alert, as if expecting danger at any moment. "What's your name?" Kyle asked gently. There was a long pause. Then the alien whispered, "Torin." Raymond glanced back. You okay, Torin? Torin slowly nodded. You saved me. You didn't have to. Raymond didn't answer right away. He just focused on the road ahead, headlights cutting through dust and darkness. They reached the outer edge of the colony. Raymond didn't go home. Instead, he drove to the back of his repair shop. The gate creaked open as they entered the yard. The building looked like a metal box from the outside, but inside it was warm, filled with tools, spare parts, and half-fixed machines. Raymond helped Torin out of the truck, carrying him in his strong arms. Torin's body was soft and heavy, but he didn't complain. His legs hung uselessly, covered in bruises and strange purple marks. Kyle followed with the blanket. Inside the shop's back room, Raymond laid Torin on an old cot. He grabbed a first aid kit, unsure what would work on alien skin. Do these hurt? He asked, pointing to the swollen spots. A little, Torin whispered, but I've had worse. Raymond frowned. How old are you? 17. In your years, I think. Kyle sat beside him. You don't look like a fighter. I'm not, Torin said with a sad smile. That's why they left me. Raymond cleaned the wounds as best he could. He noticed faint scars on Torin's arms, not from injury but from restraint bands. This boy had been held prisoner. Later that night, Torin finally spoke more. He told them he had been taken by smugglers during a raid. His people, round-bodied aliens called Greylans, were peaceful farmers. One night, without warning, ships arrived. They weren't there to trade. They were there to capture. They said we were too weak to fight back, Torin said softly. So they sold us like tools. Sold you? Kyle asked, shocked. Torin nodded. Some of us were useful, others were called trash, and you? They called me a mistake, fat, slow. I tried to run. I fell. They didn't care. Left me in that shuttle. Raymond's jaw tightened. He looked away, angry. No one should be treated like that, he muttered. Suddenly, the shop's outer lights blinked, once, then twice. Raymond stood fast. That was his silent alert. Someone was outside. He moved quickly, grabbing a wrench and switching off the indoor lights. Kyle helped Torin pull the blanket over his body. They all stayed silent. Footsteps echoed outside, soft but steady, then a knock. Raymond didn't answer. Another knock, this time louder. Anyone in there? A voice called. Smooth, calm, but with a dangerous edge. Just looking for a missing cargo. Maybe you've seen it? Raymond stayed still, his heart pounding. He peeked through a small slit in the door. A man in a long coat stood outside holding a scanner. Behind him, two others waited, both armed. Raymond knew what they were. Smugglers. The man stepped closer to the door. We tracked a signal here, he said. You really want to keep this quiet? Or should we come in? Raymond didn't speak. He reached slowly toward the side wall and pressed a hidden button. A silent alarm sent a ping to an old friend at the border patrol. He grabbed Kyle's hand, whispering, Take Torin to the basement, now! Kyle obeyed fast. He helped Torin slide off the cot and into a hidden panel behind the workbench. The knock came again, this time loud and hard. You have 5 seconds. The voice shouted. Raymond opened the door slightly, showing just his face. Just a mechanic here, he said, pretending to yawn. You're making a lot of noise for someone asking questions. The man stared at him with sharp eyes. We think you picked up something that doesn't belong to you. Raymond stepped out, closing the door behind him. You got a warrant? He asked calmly. No. Then get off my land. For a moment it looked like the man might attack, but then he smiled. Have it your way, he said. But know this. We don't stop looking. Not until we get back what's ours. They walked away slowly. Raymond waited until they disappeared into the dark. Back inside, he went to the basement door. Kyle and Torin were waiting. They're not giving up, Raymond said quietly. Torin lowered his eyes. They'll keep coming. My people. We're not just prisoners. We're part of something bigger. And now they know you're helping me. Raymond sighed deeply. Then we better find out what you're really worth to them, he said, before it's too late. For the next few days, Raymond kept the repair shop locked tight. The sign outside read closed for repairs, but the real reason was hiding in the basement. Torin rested in the small room below the workshop. There were no windows, only a soft light, a cot, and a pile of blankets. Kyle brought him food, water, and old story tablets to pass the time, but Torin mostly stayed quiet, staring at the wall, deep in thought. Raymond watched from the shadows. He could see the fear in the boy's eyes, the way Torrin flinched when someone stepped too close, or how he froze when the wind rattled the shop doors. It was the silence that hurt most. Torrin didn't cry. He didn't complain. He just sat there like someone waiting for pain to return. One afternoon, Raymond sat beside him and handed him a hot drink. "Smells weird," Torrin said, sniffing it. "Human recipe," Raymond replied. "It's called cocoa." Torrin sipped it carefully. His eyes lit up. "It's sweet." Raymond gave a small smile. "You could use something sweet." There was silence again, then Torrin spoke. "Why are you helping me?" Raymond looked at the floor. "Because once someone helped me when I was broken too. That night, Kyle sneaked downstairs with a tablet. "Want to watch something fun?" he asked. Torrin looked unsure. "It's a cartoon," Kyle explained. "No guns, no war. Just two best friends who make robots." Torrin nodded. They watched together. At first, Torrin sat stiff, confused by the human jokes and silly sounds. But soon he started to laugh. A quiet, deep laugh that echoed in the small basement. Kyle grinned. "See? Told you it's funny." Torrin chuckled, then paused. "Back home, I never laughed much. Why?" Torrin looked down at his round belly. "My people said I was born wrong. Too big, too slow. I couldn't fight. Couldn't farm. I was nothing." Kyle frowned. "You're not nothing." Torrin's eyes watered. "That's the first time anyone said that to me." Upstairs, Raymond was busy. He wasn't just watching over Torrin. He was searching. Calling old contacts, scanning smuggler chatter, trying to find out why a fat alien boy was worth tracking across planets. Then one message arrived. A broken signal from a distant system. It was a smuggler's bounty list, and Torrin's face was on it, not as a prisoner, as a target. Raymond's eyes narrowed. The bounty said, "Eliminate the Greyland child before the truth spreads. Alive only if captured by the Baron himself," Raymond whispered. "What truth?" Later that night, Torrin had a nightmare. He screamed in his sleep, thrashing, sweat pouring from his body. Raymond rushed down with Kyle behind him. Torrin gasped, waking up. His chest heaved. "I saw her," he cried. "My sister, Laurie." She was calling my name. Raymond sat beside him. "You have a sister?" Torrin nodded, tears rolling down his cheeks. "She's younger than me. She was taken too. I thought she died, but I saw her in my dream. She was alive. And in pain. Could it be real?" Kyle asked softly. Torrin wiped his eyes. "In my people's belief, when siblings are bonded, they can feel each other, even far away. It only happens in rare families. We were always close." Raymond stood slowly. His face was serious. "Then we're going to find her." Torrin stared. "But they'll kill you if you help me. The Baron, he controls hundreds of systems. He turns peaceful aliens into labor. No one stops him." Raymond clenched his fists. "I don't care how big he is. If he takes children and calls them trash, he's the one that should be afraid." The next morning, Kyle drew something on a piece of paper and gave it to Torrin. It was a picture. Him and Torrin standing together, smiling. Torrin held it gently, his hands shaking. "You made this for me?" Kyle grinned. "You're my friend now. Friends protect each other." Torrin looked at the drawing for a long time, then smiled. A real warm smile. Outside the colony, in a dark orbit station, a new ship arrived. A tall alien stepped out. Half machine, half flesh. His face was covered with metal plates and his red eyes glowed like fire. He was the Baron. One of his soldiers approached. "We tracked the boy. He's with a human, a mechanic with a son." The Baron's voice was deep and cold. "Prepare the hunters," he said. "Burn the planet if you must. I want that boy alive." The colony sun rose slowly, painting the sky orange over dusty rooftops. But Raymond wasn't looking at the sky. He was loading his hover truck in silence. Inside the house, Torrin lay still in the basement, his body shaking, his breathing uneven. Something was wrong. Very wrong. "Torrin's getting worse," Kyle said quietly, watching his dad pack. "What if he won't," Raymond said firmly. "Not if I find help." Raymond didn't trust human doctors with alien biology, and regular clinics would ask questions. Too risky, so he decided to do something dangerous. He would go to the undermarket, a hidden place where outlaws traded parts, information, and sometimes illegal medicine. It was buried deep beneath the old mining tunnels on the edge of the colony. Even colony police didn't go there. Raymond told Kyle to stay hidden and lock the doors. Then he drove alone through the Badlands, dust flying behind his truck. When he reached the old mining tunnel, 2 guards with glowing eyes stepped out. "This place is closed," one said, holding a shotgun. "I need medicine," Raymond replied calmly. "For a Greyland child." The guard stiffened. One stepped back and tapped a wristband. Moments later, a thin alien with silver eyes and long fingers appeared from the shadows. "You have the Greyland boy?" The alien asked. Raymond nodded. "You're either very brave or very stupid," the alien said. "Come, the doctor will see you." Inside the underground market, the air smelled like oil, spice, and danger. Strange lights flickered. Creatures from dozens of species moved through narrow tunnels, whispering, trading, hiding. Raymond followed the silver-eyed alien to a rusted chamber with glowing plants hanging from the ceiling. An old woman sat there, her skin pale and cracked, her eyes bright green. She looked at Raymond and spoke softly. "You carry the scent of fear, and something more, loyalty." Raymond didn't waste time. "The boy is sick. He's shaking, sweating. I need help." The woman opened a drawer and took out a small box with 3 glowing vials. "His body is not just sick. It is rejecting the pain," she said. "Greylands are sensitive. When separated from family too long, their body starts to break." Raymond's eyes narrowed. "Can this save him?" "Yes, for now," the woman said, placing the vials in his hand. "But if his bondmate dies, he will follow." Raymond felt a chill in his chest. "His sister," he whispered. "She is alive," the doctor said. "I've seen her name on a slave roster. Sent to the Red Sector, property of the Baron." Raymond stared at her. "You're sure?" The doctor nodded slowly. "You have 2 choices, heal him, or fight for both of them." Raymond didn't hesitate. "I'm fighting." Back at the repair shop, Kyle was sitting beside Torren, placing a cold cloth on his forehead. Torren's skin was pale, his breathing shallow. When Raymond rushed in, Kyle stood up, hopeful. "Dad?" Raymond knelt and injected the glowing serum into Torren's arm. Within seconds, the alien boy gasped, his eyes snapping open. "Kyle," Torren whispered weakly. Where am I?" "You're safe," Kyle said, holding his hand. Raymond sat back, relief flooding his face. "You scared us, kid," he muttered. Torren blinked slowly, then whispered, "I saw her again. My sister, and she was in a dark room crying." Raymond placed a hand on his shoulder. "She's alive. I'm going to bring her back." Later that night, Raymond sat alone in the workshop, staring at a star map. His fingers hovered over the blinking red sector, the Baron's territory. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a hero. Just a man with a toolbox and a son. But someone had to do something. Someone had to stand up. Far across the galaxy, in the Baron's fortress, a young Greyland girl was chained to a metal wall. Her eyes were tired, but she whispered one word again and again. "Torren, Torren." Suddenly her chains beeped and released. She looked up. The Baron stood before her, towering half machine, half alien. "You and your brother," he said coldly, "were never supposed to survive." "But we did," Laurie whispered. The Baron's eyes glowed. "Let's see how long that lasts." Back in the colony, Raymond loaded weapons, tools, and spare parts into a crate. Kyle stood nearby, holding a small robot he had built, a gift for Torren. "You're really going, aren't you?" Kyle asked. Raymond nodded. "They took his sister. I'm not leaving her behind." Kyle hugged his dad tightly. "Bring her home." Raymond smiled. "I will." The stars blinked quietly in the sky above the colony, unaware of the storm that was coming. Inside the small repair shop, Raymond stood over a messy table covered in tools, wires, and energy cells. His hands worked fast, steady, and sure. He was building something that wasn't just for fixing broken engines. He was building a fight. Torren sat nearby in a wheelchair Kyle had modified using spare hover parts. Though his body still felt weak, his eyes were clearer now, burning with something new. "Hope. You don't have to do this," Torren said quietly. Raymond didn't look up. "Yes, I do. They'll kill you," Torren said. "They have soldiers, drones, war machines." Raymond paused, wiping sweat from his brow. "Doesn't matter. They took your sister. That makes it my problem now." Kyle entered, holding a small device in his hand. "I've finished the signal scrambler," he said. "It'll block drones for a few seconds. Maybe longer if we're lucky." Raymond smiled at his son. Good work. Torren looked between the two humans. Why are you risking everything for me? I'm not even your kind. Raymond walked over and placed a hand on Torren's shoulder. When my wife died, I promised I'd raise Kyle to never turn away from someone in need. He said softly, You needed help. That's all that matters. Torren blinked fast, trying to hold back tears. For the first time, someone treated him like family. That night, Raymond loaded the hover truck with what he had built, trap drones, a shield generator, and a modified mining cannon. It wasn't much against an army, but it was enough to make a stand. Before leaving, Raymond gave Kyle a comm bracelet. If I don't come back, you get out, find help. Take care of Torren. I want to come with you, Kyle said. Raymond shook his head. Not this time, son. The journey to the Baron's outpost was dangerous. Raymond traveled through abandoned mining tunnels, hiding from scanners and patrol ships. His plan was simple. Break in, find the girl, and get out. He didn't expect to live. But that was fine. Some things were worth dying for. Back at the colony, Torren struggled to stand. His legs still shook, but he gritted his teeth and pushed himself up using the edge of the table. Kyle rushed to his side. What are you doing? You're not strong enough. I can't sit and hide while your father fights for my sister, Torren said, voice trembling. He reached into a drawer and pulled out a device he had hidden, one he'd taken from the smuggler's crate. What's that? Kyle asked. A distress beacon. But it doesn't call for help. Torren's eyes darkened. It calls the Baron. Raymond reached the outer wall of the Baron's outpost just before sunrise. His truck slowed near a hidden cave entrance. He set the traps. He charged the cannon. Then, silently, he stepped into enemy ground. Inside, the place was huge. Dark metal halls, flickering red lights, buzzing drones. Raymond moved like a shadow, following a stolen floor plan he had memorized. He reached a door marked Storage Unit 7. Behind it, a soft voice was whispering, Torren. Please, I'm still here. Raymond opened the door slowly. Inside, chained to the wall, was a thin Greyland girl with large, teary eyes. Laurie, she looked up in shock. You're not one of them. I'm a friend of your brother, Raymond said, kneeling beside her. Let's get you out. But as soon as he unlocked her chains, alarms blared. Red lights flashed, a cold voice echoed through the halls. How sweet, said the Baron through speakers. One human against a kingdom. Raymond grabbed Laurie's hand and ran. Outside the outpost, drones swarmed. Soldiers dropped from ships. It was a trap, and Raymond had walked right into it. But as the Baron stepped from his command shuttle, something unexpected happened. A sharp beep rang across the air. A Greyland distress signal from the colony, hundreds of miles away. The Baron's eyes narrowed. Impossible. Back at the repair shop, Torren stood with shaking legs. The signal beacon blinked in his hands. Beside him, Kyle activated the shop's energy tower, sending a strong wave across the sky. Dozens of ships in orbit suddenly turned. The beacon had triggered an old Greyland safety law. Any distress signal from royal blood must be answered. Torren wasn't just a farmer's son. He was the heir. The Baron growled. You little worm! Raymond stood between him and Laurie. I'm not letting you touch her. The Baron raised a plasma sword. Raymond raised his cannon. A bright beam lit up the sky as the repair shop's tower pulsed again. The signal Torren sent wasn't just a cry for help. It was a forgotten royal code, buried in ancient Greyland history. But now, it was awake, and it was calling an entire people to rise. At the Baron's fortress, dust swirled around Raymond as he stood face to face with the armored tyrant. The Baron's metal boots thudded against the ground. His plasma blade hummed to life, glowing red like fire. I gave you a chance, the Baron said coldly. You could have walked away. Raymond stood firm, holding the mining cannon with both hands. You took their freedom, their family. I don't walk away from that. The Baron stepped forward. You're just a mechanic. Raymond's eyes narrowed. And you're just a bully with a crown. The Baron charged. Raymond fired. The cannon blast lit the field, striking the Baron's armor and throwing him backward. The impact cracked the ground, but the Baron stood again, dented but still burning with rage. Raymond turned to Laurie. Run! She nodded and limped away through the broken cargo bay, heading for the tunnel they came through. but soldiers swarmed in behind them, blocking the path. Raymond reached for another energy cell, only to realize he had one shot left. He knew what he had to do. Back in the colony, Torren stood outside the shop, supported by Kyle and two crutches. His legs still trembled, but he refused to fall. Ships began landing, small and old, some patched with rust, others nearly falling apart. But they carried Greylands. Dozens at first, then hundreds. Each ship carried a different family. Some were farmers. Some were healers. Some were elders who hadn't spoken of their lost prince in years. But when they saw Torren, they remembered. A tall elder stepped forward. His body was thin, but his voice was strong. "You carry the mark of the sky roots," he said, pointing at the strange birthmark on Torren's shoulder. "We thought the royal bloodline was gone." "I didn't know," Torren said, voice low. "I didn't ask for any of this." "But you called," the elder replied. "And we came." In the distance, the Baron's warships began to move toward the colony. "They're coming," Kyle whispered. Torren turned to the crowd. "I can't fight like a warrior, but I can lead like a brother." He looked around at his people, raising his voice. "We've run long enough. We've hidden. We've been told we're weak. But we're not. We farmed, we healed. We loved. That is strength." A wave of emotion passed through the crowd. "We don't have weapons like the Baron," Torren continued, "but we have each other. We will not let him take one more child. Not one more sister. Not one more world." The Greylands cheered. Their ships opened, revealing tools, shields, farming lasers, repurposed mining bots, all ready to fight. Torren looked to the sky. "We're coming, Dad." Inside the Baron's fortress, Raymond helped Laurie up into a side room. Her leg was hurt, but she could walk. Suddenly, the sound of engines echoed above. Raymond looked through a cracked window. Ships, Greyland ships, were falling from the sky like birds. The Baron growled. "What did you do?" Raymond smirked, even with blood on his face. "I just gave him time." The walls of the fortress shook. Outside, the Greyland forces landed and charged with purpose. Not trained soldiers, but brave families who had been hunted for too long. Torren arrived on a hovercraft, guided by Kyle and the Elder. He wore a simple sash over his shoulder, the symbol of the Greyland heir. He didn't look like a warrior, but his people followed him like he was a king. Torren entered the fortress. His crutches echoed in the hallway. The Baron turned from Raymond. "So, the fat boy finally stands." Torren's hands trembled, but his voice didn't. "I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to end what you started." The Baron laughed. "You can't end me." "I'm not alone," Torren said. "And you're not welcome anymore." Behind him, Greyland warriors burst in. Farming tools lit up. Lasers flashed. The Baron lifted his blade to strike Amuse, but Raymond stepped in front and fired his last cannon shot. The explosion hit the Baron full in the chest. This time he didn't get up. The fight was over. Torren rushed to his sister, holding her close. Raymond dropped to one knee, exhausted. Kyle ran in, hugging his dad tight. "You came back," Kyle whispered. Raymond smiled. "Told you I would." The Greyland flag rose over the Baron's broken outpost, and Torren, once called useless, once left behind in the trash, now stood as the leader of a united people. The dust had not yet settled when the sun began to rise over the Baron's ruined outpost. The ground still smoked. The metal walls cracked and broken. But silence now filled the battlefield, and in that silence, peace returned. Raymond leaned against a half-destroyed pillar, his chest heaving from exhaustion. His shirt was torn, his arms bruised, but he was still standing. Kyle ran toward him through the smoke, his boots kicking up ash. "Dad," he shouted. Raymond turned just in time to catch his son in a hug. "You're okay," Kyle whispered, his voice shaking. "I told you I would be," Raymond said with a soft smile. "I promised." Behind them, Torren helped his sister Laurie onto a hover sled. She looked weak, but her eyes sparkled now, alive, safe, and no longer alone. Torren gently held her hand. "You found me," she whispered. "I didn't," Torren said. "He did." He looked at Raymond, and for the first time, tears slid down his round cheeks, not from pain, but from something deeper, gratitude. Hours later, the Greylands gathered in the center of the destroyed fortress. Ships hovered above, carrying the wounded and sending messages across stars. A large banner, marked with the ancient Greyland tree symbol, was raised over the battleground. Torin stood at the center, dressed in a robe stitched together from old fabrics by his people. It wasn't fancy, but it was real. It belonged to him. A circle of elders stood before him. "You are the last of the royal bloodline," one said. "We believed the line had ended. But now we know. It was only hidden." Another elder stepped forward. "You gave us courage, Torin. You stood when your legs were weak. You spoke when your voice trembled. That is true leadership." Torin looked down embarrassed. "I'm not a leader." Raymond stepped beside him. "You became one the moment you chose others over yourself." The crowd began to chant his name, slow at first, then stronger. "Torin. Torin! Torin!" Later that night, under the stars, Raymond, Kyle, Torin, and Larry sat around a small fire outside the ship. Laurie was wrapped in a warm blanket, eating her first full meal in weeks. Kyle gave her a toy he had built, a small robot that wobbled when it walked. She laughed for the first time. Torin watched quietly. His eyes glowed in the firelight. "I never thought I'd have a family again," he said softly. "You didn't find a family," Raymond replied. "You built one." Torin looked at him. "I still don't know where I belong." "With us," Kyle said, smiling. "Always." Soon a Greyland elder approached with a carved wooden box. He handed it to Torin. Inside was a seed. "A glowing seed. The heart seed," the elder said. "Every true Greyland leader plants one. It grows with their spirit and becomes a tree that lasts forever." Torin held it gently. "Where should I plant it?" he asked. Raymond smiled. "Anywhere you want to call home." Torin paused, then looked toward the colony in the distance, toward the dusty little shop that saved him, where a broken man and a curious boy gave him more than just safety. He smiled. "I know just the place." Weeks passed. The colony slowly returned to normal, but something had changed. Aliens and humans now worked side by side. The story of the fat alien boy who stood tall had spread across systems. Torin became a symbol, not just of survival, but of second chances. He visited schools, taught younglings, shared stories of courage and kindness. He never wore a crown. He never gave orders. He only listened, and people followed. Raymond reopened his repair shop. Business was better than ever, but that wasn't what mattered. What mattered was the laughter inside his home. 3 plates at the table. 3 stories. Now one. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Torin stood outside the shop holding the heartseed. Kyle helped him dig the hole. Raymond stood nearby, arms crossed, quietly proud. They placed the seed in the ground. As the first drop of water touched it, a soft glow pulsed from the soil. It began to sprout, not just a tree, but a memory, a promise, a new beginning. And as the stars blinked above, Torin looked toward the sky, toward all those still lost, still scared, still waiting for someone to step in. He whispered gently, "Please don't hurt me. I can't walk," then he smiled, "but I will stand anyway."